Welcome to the deep dive. It's Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. And if you're glued to the market technicals like we are, you're probably feeling that, well, cautious energy, right? A lot of sideways movement.
Yeah, definitely seen that. Bit of a holding pattern.
So today we're digging into the Grok Trade market summary. We've got their stock market data, economic updates, crypto info, and our goal is really to pull out what matters for you, the technical trader, trying to figure out, what might happen next.
Exactly. We want to look past just the headline numbers and really understand the technical signals Grok Trade is pointing to in this current market.
Okay, let's jump right into the stock market then. Grok Trade is showing, well, pretty modest gains overall. S&P 500 up 0.42%, Dow Jones gained 0.69%, NASDAQ up 0.39%, and the Russell 2000 just over 0.33% up.
Modest is the word. But the interesting part, technically speaking, is how the S&P is just kind of stuck in this sideways channel.
Yeah, that holding pattern you mentioned.
Right. And look at the Dow. Grok Trade highlights this is the fourth day in a row it's bumped up against its 50-day simple moving average. And importantly, it closed below it again.
Okay. So that 50-day is acting as pretty solid resistance then, like a ceiling?
Precisely. Repeated failures to close above a key moving average like that, well, that's a classic sign of resistance. Technical analysts watch very closely.
And is it just the Dow or?
No, it's interesting. Grok Trade notes the Russell 2000, the small caps, is facing a similar battle with its own 50-day moving average.
So resistance at that 50-day level seems to be a bit of a theme across the board.
It certainly looks that way. Grok Trade calls it a consolidation phase. And that term, consolidation, is really crucial for technical traders. It's basically a pause, right? Price moves sideways. Neither bulls nor bears are really in control.
And these phases, they don't last forever.
Usually not. They often lead to a more significant move, what traders call a breakout, either up or down. So everyone's watching for clues about which way it'll break.
Makes sense. Now, moving beyond the pure chart patterns, what about the economic news Grok Trade mentioned? Anything driving this caution?
Well, the big one is probably the Federal Reserve keeping interest rates steady. MarketWatch reported that. Via Grok Trade, market's still kind of, processing that, what it means for future policy. Any hints there can really shift sentiment and impact those technical levels.
And there was something about U.S.-China trade talks, too. Sounded a bit mixed.
Yeah, a bit of renewed optimism, but then President Trump mentioned no tariff cuts before talks progress, so it adds this layer of uncertainty.
How does that uncertainty play into the technicals?
Well, good news could provide the catalyst needed to maybe break through that resistance we talked about. But lingering tariff worries, they can act like an anchor, keeping prices capped below those technical ceilings. It's that constant push-pull.
Gotcha. But amidst all this sideways action and caution, Grok Trade did flag Disney stock.
Yeah.
A big jump, right?
Oh, yeah, a 10% surge after strong earnings. That's a great reminder that even in a consolidating market, individual company news, the fundamentals, can still cause huge moves.
So opportunities are still out there, even if the broad market is treading water.
Absolutely. And sometimes those big individual stock moves can hint at sector strength, which might eventually feed into the broader indices technical picture.
Okay, let's quickly touch on crypto and metals from the Grok Trade report. Bitcoin.
Bitcoin saw a small dip, about 0.56%. But Grok Trade notes it's still stuck in a pretty tight range.
And technically, what does a tight range suggest?
Indecision, mostly. After a move, if price just coils up tightly, traders using technical analysis are watching those key support levels Grok mentioned.
Yeah.
A break below could mean more selling. A break above could signal the next leg up.
And gold and silver, they seem to have dropped more sharply.
They did. Gold down 1.5%, silver down 2.42%. Grok Trade describes it as a pullback from recent highs.
So maybe profit-taking?
Likely some of that, yeah. Or investors may be rotating back into riskier assets a little. From a technical standpoint, you'd look at indicators, maybe like the RSI, to see if momentum is genuinely shifting after that run-up.
All right, so let's try and bring this all together for listeners focused on the technicals. What's the main takeaway from Grok Trade today?
I think the overriding theme is caution, really. You see it in the sideways churn of the main indices, and especially that resistance showing up at the 50-day moving averages for the Dow and Russell 2000.
So this consolidation is the critical thing to watch.
Absolutely. For you as a technical trader, these consolidation periods are key because they often set the stage for the next significant trend. The big question is always, which way will it resolve?
Okay, so retapping. We've got sideways stock action, clear resistance at the 50-day SMA, some mixed economic news acting as potential catalysts,
Uh-huh.
Bitcoin in a tight range, and gold and silver pulling back.
That sums it up pretty well. It paints a picture of a market waiting for a clearer signal.
So, the final thought for you listening, especially if you trade based on technicals.
Yeah, considering these technical hurdles we've discussed, that 50-day resistance and the potential economic triggers like Fed hints or trade news, what specific price levels will you be watching? What levels would confirm for you that the next directional move is really underway?
That's something to think about. That wraps up our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.